Hey guys, it's good to see you again. Appreciate you checking us out, tuning back into Abide podcast, men's discipleship. We're going to be bringing some more content to you. We want you to like and share, subscribe, whatever you got to do. Just hit a button. We're just thankful that you're with us. But we're going to be going into serving God. But before we do that, Josh, you took his spring break this week and got to spend some time with your family and stuff. Tell us a little bit where you've been out of town.
Dude, I'm not from the Midwest, but I do my best to go to the Midwest as much as I can.
Yeah.
Went with the family, went to Colorado for a few days, but spent the majority of our time in Kansas. We have so many farms. We used to hunt up there, and we actually made so many friends that they're now their family, and so we go spend spring break with family. The deer hunting is terrible now in Midwest Kansas. We're in Sheridan County. Chronic waste disease came in.
Hey, so this is Shady, correct?
Yep.
Where'd Shady come from? Lee, I don't know if you can zoom a little bit or show this buck right here, but you killed Shady in Kansas, correct?
Yeah. Actually, on a friend of ours, Jackie and Jeremy's place. It was amazing. We were able to hunt so many great years out there before chronic waste came through, and that was one of those bonus bucks. Didn't even really know he was there. He's living.
What did he score?
163, 164
That's awesome.
He's a toad, yeah.
Why did he get the name Shady?
Because I've got a bad thing that I act like I'm shady when I kill a deer, and so
I got you.
I was real shady. I acted like I was wanting pancakes. I'm about to get out of the stand. I'm hungry.
I got you.
And when I got out, they were like, why are you getting out early? The rut. And I was like, I got to go blood trail a deer. So I was a little shady about it. I was shady.
Yeah. I've been there before.
Yeah.
But so you had a good week, Colorado?
Oh man, love being with my family. It's everything.
Yeah.
Family and friends to spend time with is great, but something about the Midwest, they do this thing called visiting. We don't do that. Like our life is such a fast pace.
All right. Unpack that. What are you talking about?
They say, hey, let's sit and visit. And that's
just going over to friends' houses
and
stuff like that?
Yeah, and so, and they just visit. They just sit. And it takes a couple days to get this hurry disease out of us.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes a while. And so one of our favorite guys in the world, his name's Hugh Wigington. There's something, one day soon I'm going to share. It's called the Hugh Theory. His name's Hugh. He's an amazing man. And he, years ago, said, why are y'all always in a rush? Yeah, we got to go do things. There's so much we want to accomplish and do. We only have a week here. We're going to do some stuff. And he says, but what are you going to do that's greater than being with each other? Let's just visit.
Dude.
And you know how hard it is for me? Every time I just sit and visit, it takes 2 days to get that anxious feeling. It's just this rolling in my, like, we got to go. But by the time second day kicks in and everybody's like, what are we doing? I'm like, we're just going to visit, drink some coffee, and hang out on the porch.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, it was a good spring break.
So just to give people a little insight on some of the stuff we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks, talking about taking our time, talking about visiting, talking about spending quality time with each other. So you got a daughter, and she's about to go into what?
She's 16. She's 11th grade.
She's 11th grade, about to go in senior year of high school.
Yep.
And I've got a daughter who just turned 20, and she is at Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, which is about 3 hours away from here.
We both went there.
Yeah, that's right. And so spending quality time, and we're going, like I said, we're going to unpack this in a few weeks, but talking about just raising your kids and spending quality time with your daughters.
Was she just home for spring break?
Yeah, actually, she come home last weekend, and she brought her boyfriend. He's a great guy. His name's Hampton. Good kid. And but that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about. Just how to handle raising your girls, especially we're in a different season than a lot of guys. Raising your kids, little kids, is fun, but this crept up on me, man, and got here quick. That they leave, dude.
And we're supposed to be doing our job in what the role God's given us for this time, but it doesn't make the time easy when they leave. Yeah,
dude. And nobody talked to me about this, and that's one of the things I think we're going to help some guys, because with all transparency, is this not a gut punch in the hurt locker? It's tough.
I want to tell you, whenever week that is, y'all are going to see a box of tissues right now. We're just going to blow
Absolutely.
snot bubbles on each
Absolutely.
other. Like, you know,
Yep.
yeah.
And but that's kind of stuff we want to talk about. And like I said, we're just giving you a little glimpse of what we're going to be talking about in a few weeks. But we got a lot of good stuff. But today, we want to finish up on what we've kind of been talking about as far as there's three stages to what we're laying foundation for. And the first one we talked about is to know God. The second one is to love God. But the third that we want to tie all this together is serving God. And you know, how do we connect all that together? How do we connect serving God to loving God and knowing God?
Yeah. So the John 15, abide, is one of the greatest visuals of knowing, loving, and serving. And it's actually John 15, verse 10, after we've unpacked all of the to know God, love God, and in this part of serving, John 15:10 says, if you keep my commandments,
Yeah.
you will abide in my love. That right there, pretty quick, he goes, hey, if you keep and serve in my commandments, you're serving and walking in my love. You know me, you love me, you serve me. And he actually said this twice. He said it in John 14, verse 21, the one who has my commandments and then keeps them, that's the one who loves me.
Yeah.
So how do you know if you know God? How do you know if you love God? It's that the byproduct is serving God, right? Because I truly believe how not to go back to a couple podcasts, but without knowing God, you'll never truly love Him.
Yep.
But when you truly know Him, you truly love Him, serving is a byproduct. And so it rolls right into that. And so he pretty much says in John 15 and John 14, loving God is serving God, and serving God is loving God.
It all ties together, but at the same time, I was thinking about this week. So loving God and knowing God, I think they kind of piggyback off of one another.
Okay.
Because if you know God, it makes you want to love Him. And the more you love Him, the more you want to know Him. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But we're tying in serving. But here's something that I thought about this week. To serve God, it can almost be a separate entity if we would allow it to. And we could almost get away with just trying to know God and love God. Mm-hmm. And try to keep the serving God over by itself. Because here's what I've come to understand about serving God. That it requires an extra step of me. It requires more of me. Because this is where I have to step out. I have to, and we're going to unpack this a little bit more, but there's actions, there's movement, there's choices that I make. And here's something about serving God is this, that to have the knowledge and to have the knowledge of something, to have the knowledge of God or have the knowledge of anything, and then to know something, but then not to serve in that is almost pointless. Because what good does it do to know God? What good does it do to love God? What good does it do to come to church and do all that stuff and have all that information and have all the knowledge of God and love all the knowledge that you have of God, but yet no one can see the byproducts of what you're doing? And that's where I think serving comes in.
And truly, I think in the church world or just through religious eyes, what you can see sometimes is that men have been known to be passive in church. And so what we do, and I like how you said that, is that we put serving out by itself.
Yep.
But what we can do if we're not careful is we can get someone serving but not knowing and loving. And so
That's
then
true.
they're left with just some works. And so like the truth of what we want to say as we're rolling into serving is make sure that everybody understands and knows that there's nothing you can do in your works and your serving that's going to save you. That's from knowing God, loving God. But oftentimes we just put the cart before the horse, and we put guys going, hey, just start doing.
Yep.
Right? And in your doing, you'll start serving. Great. Yeah, all the other stuff will come. We're going to get to that. It's dangerous if you do that. But we really wanted to lay the foundation to make sure that all guys know, everybody knows, this can't be separate.
Nope.
Abiding in Him creates these three products. If you know God, you'll love Him. If you love Him, you'll serve Him, and it connects.
And if you do it right, it's going to come together by default.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that we can't have a pit stop off of knowing God and loving God and just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Because if you really want to know the truth about loving God, is going to require you to serve Him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love my wife, and I have to take care of them. I have to go the extra steps sometimes to take care of my family and my wife. That comes with loving her. That comes with loving my family. Like I said, I got a 20-year-old daughter, and she's rough on vehicles. So, yeah,
Rough on the wallet's what it is.
it's rough on the wallet. It's what it is. And you
Cutting
know,
into our hunting money.
it's cutting into my hunt money. And Reagan, if you're watching, I love you, but
It's in bumper cars. Take your time.
this isn't bumper cars. I'm gonna need you to just I'm gonna need you to stop and look both ways if you don't mind. But so when we're talking about serving, though, if we're not careful, we will find it's almost going to be pointless
Yeah.
to go into a deeper knowledge of God and try to love God if you're not willing to serve.
Yeah. So, all right. One of the things we said, the byproduct, if we're not careful, we make it is serving, is connecting them. Even the scribes and the Pharisees tried to see, so how do we know if Jesus knows God and loves God? They asked him a question. It's in Mark 12. And they said, how do we know? And they said, what is the greatest commandment, right? So in John 15, we just read that abiding part, that byproduct of knowing and loving is serving. They asked, they said, we want to know,
Yeah.
what's the greatest commandment?
Yeah.
And Mark 12:29 says they come to him and say, which is the first commandment of all? And Jesus answered him, and he said, first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel. Look, actually, I don't want to get too nerdy, and I can, and I'm going to try not to on this podcast to lose some guys, but what he really said was the Shema, right? And so when
The Shimano or the Shema?
No, you fish with a Shimano. You fish with a Shimano.
I've got a Shimano reel.
Yeah, Shema, the Shema.
Shema.
Yeah, so he literally says, Hear, the Shema, like, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is the first commandment. The second is that you'll love your neighbor as yourself. That he literally says, you want to know if I know God? You want to know if I love God? Shema. Love God and love people. Mm-hmm. It's in the knowing God, loving God. You'll know because you'll see Him, and I'll serve not just God, I'll serve people. I'll serve those around me. And that's where hopefully the next few months and weeks that we dig into this is that the fruit of abiding comes from knowing, loving, and serving, and the fruit pops out from that. So this Shema, actually, the way I taught it with so many guys, we took poker chips, and
Oh, that's great.
yeah, it was because, Dabo All In. It was during that time. I don't even know what year that was, but the All In, Dabo.
I'm with you.
We got poker chips, and this listen and obey. So the word Shema actually means to hear, O Israel, hear, and then listen, obey, serve. And so we took, when I was teaching this, I remember taking poker chips and writing on one side, listen, and the other, obey. So it's this loving and serving. And it's one coin. It's two-sided, but you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
And so what Deuteronomy and with the Shema, the original in Hebrew, that what Jesus was saying is you want to know if I love him? Well, you'll know because there's this active listening. And I call it active listening because my active listening moves from loving to obeying commandments, obeying the word of God. And so you cannot separate these. And so that's why we're going to do our best to try to make sure that if a guy that's listening here goes, man, I want to know, am I truly in this? Am I abiding? Well, you have to look at, are you listening to obey? And so, you're the one that, I love how you said this. We're trying to not preach another sermon. We're trying to connect from the pulpit to the pews. And if we're not careful, there's a lot of guys that they show up week in and week out and they listen, but with no intention to obey.
Sure.
That they listen, but without intention to go serve what I hear. And so there's this truth of when the Father speaks, when your dad would speak, he would give instructions and you were to listen to follow the instructions.
Yep.
And out of that love, I'm listening to obey. And that's the love. And so this place of what I would love for guys to search their heart and this, do I? How do I know that I love God? Well, let me ask, when you listen to the commandments, when you listen to the word, when you listen to the truth, is it that you're listening to obey? Is there now going to be a active love? Because love is action.
Yeah.
And that's what Shema is. It's hear and obey.
Yeah. So one of the things about serving God. And I think what we're going to find and what we're going to talk about a little bit too is this, that each aspect, knowing, loving, and serving, all are going to pull back layers on a guy. They're all going to pull back layers, and some of them are going to be layers that are not comfortable. Some of them are going to expose things, humility, and I'm not comfortable with this. This is something I've not done before. But one of the things that I want us to be clear about and let you know that's listening, that when it comes to serving God, sometimes that's not easy. It's not easy serving God sometimes. It's not easy walking this path. Listen, if I could be transparent for just a second, there's sometimes I want to quit, but I can't because I'm serving Him.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I want to call it quits. There's sometimes that I want to say, the heck with this. And listen, I'll go as far to say this: when it comes to marriage, is tough, man, and maybe parenting is tough. Listen, maybe everybody else has got together. Maybe you got together. But there have been days to where I was just like, I don't want to do marriage no more. I don't want to parent no more. I don't want to do that. Maybe that's wrong for me saying it, but that's just the transparency and the vulnerability that I've faced in my life before.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that I quit. That doesn't mean I stopped. You want to know why? Because I love my family. And I have to look back and I have to say, you know what? I know what I've invested in them and I love them. And I can't give up on serving them. Even though I have moments to where I'm just like, God, this stinks and I don't want to do it. Those are just temporary seasons. But we've got to push past that. And I think when it comes to serving God, we have to understand the enemy is going to hit pressure points. The enemy is going to push on you, and he's going to try to make you quit. But we've got to buckle down, and we've got to dig our heels in the ground and say, this is something that, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this, and it's a choice that I've got to make.
Yeah.
It's a choice to serve, Josh. I choose whether or not I could choose and walk out.
Yeah.
But I choose not to because I know what this means to me, and I know it's worth the fight. Yeah. There's some scripture in Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, and it kind of goes from 13 to 16, but we'll just kind of walk through this. But the Bible says, you are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it's lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot. It's worthless. It says, you are the light of the world, like a city on the hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under their basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see. So, help me unpack this for just a second. What is salt used for? Salt can be used to add flavor.
Yeah, curing.
For curing.
Flavor.
Yeah. Healing. There's a lot of stuff salt can be used for. Light. What do we use light for?
See.
Yeah, it shines on the path.
Guide.
The sun, it shines down on plants. You got to have the sun. You got to have that for growth. It exposes stuff, right? So I'm thinking about salt and light, and he says, you are the salt, you are the light. But he says, what good is it if the salt's lost its flavor? What good are you if you have the appearance of something, but you don't have the flavor? Yeah. What good are you if you have the appearance of the light? You go to church, you take your family to church, you sing in the choir, or whatever you do. Yeah. You have the appearance of what something looks like, but listen, you're not shining any path. He says it's useless for you to know me and to love me, but you don't serve me. You've got to shine in this darkened place. And I think Jesus knew we were going to be struggling with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jesus knew that we were going to be struggling with the fact that, hey guys, you can't just sit back and not do anything. There's going to be a time to where you have to allow yourself to be a light. We talked about fruits,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll say this is when he says right there in Matthew, when he says, that it's good for nothing. Like if you're going to say you are this and it's worth this, like you love this, but you're not going to walk out and do its purpose in the serving part of it. The other thing of salt that I think about is that we have these valuable salt, but then we have this salt that he says it's worthless to be trampled underfoot.
Yep.
When it snows, rarely around here, we got a blizzard, by the way. We were shooting prairie dogs in 82-degree weather.
Wait,
in Kansas.
Sweet.
82-degree weather, and then within 12 hours, it was feel like -5. A blizzard came in, crazy cool, and we're having, putting salt down because snow and ice and all that. It makes me think of like there's this value, but if it's not. If it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it's actually worthless. We'll throw it down. It's to be trampled on. And
Worthless, man. That's crazy. That's crazy that God would say, listen, it is worthless. You are of no value to me.
Yeah.
If you put the appearance of something, but you're really just giving a false identity of what you're supposed to be.
That's right.
Because I've got use for you. And I think that's what a lot of guys need to understand, that guys, God has got purpose for us.
Yeah.
And that purpose in knowing him and loving him is going to require you to serve him. You're going to have to put action to it. I can't put this off on anybody else either. Mm-hmm. This is something that God has put on me to do.
Yeah.
And I got to serve my family. I've got to serve my son. I've got to serve my daughter, my wife. I've got to serve this church. Because that's just part of it. I mean, that's part of my relationship with God and serving him. And
can you imagine though if I stuck my hand in that rock salt that you kind of throw out with ice, and I try to serve it with your steak, your filet steak,
Yeah.
right? That you're putting it at a place and go, come on, that's not
the right salt, bud.
What you just said, it's not its purpose, and your purpose is not to be trampled underfoot. It was to bring such, and you're serving with that salt. I love the way James says it. Is he talks about faith and works and how you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
But one of them is, I love how he's like, look, you can say you love your neighbor, you can say that there's love there, but then you see somebody homeless and they are not clothed and they're cold, and you go, be clothed with love and peace, right? That you go, stop it. Like, that's not real love.
Yeah.
Because love required action.
Absolutely.
It was in that place that James is saying, look, you show me you have this faith. Let's put it in our words, where we're saying with abide. You show me, you say you have this know God and loving God. It will come from serving God, the faith of then walking it out with the purpose of what you're called to.
You know, to serve God, like I said a little while ago, is a choice, though. Mm. And here's something that I've learned about the choice: is when I start loving God, and when I start knowing God more and loving Him more, and it gets to the place where I start serving Him. You know, God says that we're to be a witness. We're supposed to be a witness and tell other people about Jesus, the good news. And here's one thing that I know by default: when you fall in love with God and start knowing Him and start serving Him, by default, others are going to notice. Others are going to see by default that you're witnessing. Why? Because you're serving. Well, who are you serving? Well, you're serving God. Why? Because you love Him. And it's going to make an impact on the people around us when we fall into that vein where we're serving God with the right intentions and loving on God.
You asked me at the beginning, you said, hey, connect, know God, love God. And where does this serve God come into? But remember, the visual that he gives in John 15 is one of the greatest visuals of discipleship.
Yep.
It's abide in me. And so there's this connection with me, that you know me, you love me. And then there's this, out of that byproduct of knowing me and loving me, that fruit will be produced. And what you just said is, and this fruit, yes, for you to be, but it's serving fruit to those around you. And so that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, those are fruits that I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to share with you. There's a lot of guys I know that they say, yeah, I know God. I know the story of God. I love God. And I can promise you their family's not eating off that fruit.
Yep.
That patience, love, those very truths are the byproduct of know God, love God. And so this is that part that you go, you say that, well, now this is where the rubber meets the road. Sure. This is where we go, okay, so where does that come from? And it doesn't come from us producing, right? Do better, try harder. It becomes in abiding in him and sitting with him. And you said it a minute ago. It's work.
Yeah,
It is marriage work. And I appreciate you being as vulnerable. Dude, it has been early on, Brooke and I have said that there was a part that I was like, if it's going to be like this forever, my goodness, like it was a rough season.
Absolutely.
And I want to tell you, I was in ministry. I was a youth pastor, and I was not abiding well. What I was doing, and we're going to get to this in a minute, is I was trying to do the serving without the abiding.
Yeah.
Without the knowing and loving. And
That's
we're going to get to that in a
where you
minute,
get
where
messed
it's
up
dangerous. I'm not going to try to jump to that right now, but I do want you to know, for the longest time, I realized I can't do the thing everybody wants me to do. That, hey, serve with love, joy, peace, patience. Like, I was trying to produce that serving fruit out of me, and that's not what comes out of us.
Sure.
And so this very thing that we're looking into, that I'm asking, what is it that a man is comparing, going, what is it that my family's eating off of?
So here's one thing that I want to kind of lead into, and it's a choice that nobody can make for us, Josh. We choose whether or not we're going to serve, and we can push this off, and we can say, you know what, I'm going to let somebody. You know, we touched a point in the last episode where, you know, there's no way that I'm going to let another man be the spiritual leader for my home. Yeah. I'm going to, and if you're in that position, then you need to choose that. Hey, something's going to happen in my life. I'm going to serve God to the best of my ability. You know, Joshua said, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. He was making a choice. Here's where I want to challenge guys today, is that you can't, this is not just going to come by default. This is something you have to choose to go after. You have to go over with intensity, you have to be intentional about it. There's a quote that I read. It says, we can choose to leave our old lives behind and follow Christ, or we can cling to life as we know it and miss the opportunity of a lifetime. Listen, Jesus is passing by. His presence is moving. He's calling us. He has presented this platform for us to be able to reach men and talk to men. And there's an opportunity. Maybe you're listening to it right now, and you have to make a choice. You can't push this off on somebody else. You're going to have to choose. And here's one of the things that it's going to take. And I hate to break it to you, but and you know this. Serving God takes complete surrenderance. This is not take part of my life, take part of my mind, I love the Lord with all my heart, my soul, my mind. Mm-hmm. All of it. This takes complete surrender. What does that look like? Complete surrender.
And so if you say that, to love the Lord God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength, that means then the byproduct of that is, if you can't separate listening and obeying, loving and serving, that's the Shema. If you can't separate it, then the very truth is that if you say that, then we'll see that, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that you said, but there's been times I've not wanted to, but this ain't about a feeling.
It's not.
It's about a commitment. And listen, the days that you realize, you go, hey, all right, I know, especially for the type A'ers, if there's some guys out there that are like, give me the list, just tell me where to start serving, and I'll start doing it. Again, this is a dangerous place that if you try to do this without, you skip, and as you said, we separate, put serving over here, knowing and loving. I've literally had guys go, I don't understand, I don't read the Bible, I don't pray, but there's some of the hardest working servers over here that you go, man, it's gonna be an exhausting life, because that serving comes from a byproduct of this vine that's not you. And so when you said, this is tough, yeah, it's tough. If you get to this place and go, I don't feel it, there's where it makes this cycle. It comes back into, but when I sit with him and I abide with him, and I begin to eat off the fruit of, man, I can't believe you've been so patient with me.
Dude.
The way you've loved me, you've been so kind to me, that it makes me think of that story. And when we truly, and there's been so many guys that I've talked to, we've truly lived this out, this parable of that. There was a man, a servant who owed a king so much money, and he said, there's no way I can repay it. I can't repay it. And the king said, look, I forgive it. The guy walks right out of his presence, finds somebody that owes him a Happy Meal, $5, $10, hardly anything compared to what he owed. And he says, pay me now. No. And he grabs him by his throat. And then puts him in prison. Here's what I found out, is that if you truly are trying to do this thing apart from the Father, the King, the love, that source of knowing Him, it's not in you.
Yeah.
The first time you get in a place of go, hey, you owe me, you grab. Here's what's crazy is He imprisoned him. And in that imprisoned, so many men are trying to do this, but it's like they're in this prison.
Yeah.
And they can't get out of it. It's this cycle of I'm trying, without abiding in Him.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, like, as we're sitting here talking about this, I'm thinking about the guy that's, I mean, that's the construction worker or the guy that puts his notes to the grindstone, and he's working.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's successful at this. I mean, I'm talking about the
Pull yourself up with a bootstrap.
The Carhartt
Yeah.
kind of guy that when he comes home from work, you know he's worked all day. He's got calloused hands. He's got rings under his eyes because he got up early and he gets in late. He's working hard. He is the serving kind of guy. He serves.
Give you his
He
shirt off
serves-
his back.
Absolutely. If you call him after a full day's worth of work and he loves, he's that guy. He maybe just got saved or, whatever. He's excited about church and his family's getting blessed and all that stuff. But he'll be there and he'll be the first one to get on the cooker and start cooking for you and stuff like that. But my thing is this. We're eager to do all the serving, but you can't forget, why are you serving? Why are you serving? What's the point of your service? Hey guys, thanks for being with us during this episode. Got a lot of information we want to share with you. Couldn't get all in one, but we want you to tune in next time. So check out the next episode, hit that like and subscribe button. God bless. We'll see you next time.